Welcome back to this week's edition of the Main Street TV Local Sports Break. Hi, I'm host Ralph Miranda. Well, we talked to Coach Derek Hunt today, or we will talk to Coach Derek Hunt today about the upcoming game with Alcoa, as well as the previous game last Friday night against Cleveland. You know, the Rebels went down to Cleveland, the team that beat them last year, and pretty much handled business. They were up 24-0 at the half, and then cruised to a 34-7 victory over Cleveland. So a lot of good performances by Maryville. Their freshman quarterback seems to be getting better and better every week. The defense is playing a lot better. So Maryville's in a good spot right now, but they do have this upcoming game, their rivalry game with Alcoa, a game that's being played in week 10. It's never really been played this late before. So it's going to be an interesting affair this week against Alcoa at Alcoa. We're going to talk about some of the players that performed really well last Friday night, especially their freshman quarterback. And then, of course, we'll talk about the Alcoa game. So all that and more on this week's edition of the Main Street TV Local Sports Break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to the Main Street TV Local Sports Break. Hi, I'm your host, Ralph Miranda. I'm joined now, as I am every week, by the head football coach of the Maryville Rebels, Coach Derek Hunt. Coach, big victory Friday night over the Cleveland Blue Raiders, 34-7. Sounds like a pretty complete football game. Give us your overall impressions of the game and what you were trying to get done Friday night.
Yeah, so we were coming off a bye week and, with a sour taste in our mouth, an overtime loss the previous week. And so that could have gone either way. And I think our coaches did a fantastic job of just saying, hey, let's give them everything we've got over this bye week. You don't feel like you feel like you're so close. There's not a lot of things you think you need to do differently, but at the same time, we can still get better. And so I was just really proud of the way our coaching staff bought in, and our kids responded really well over that bye week. And then to come out and play as well as we did against Cleveland was just felt really good. Defensively, we were playing really hard. We got after them a little bit, sacked the quarterback 8 times, I think. And so that was huge for sure, to be able to pressure him and make them uncomfortable was a big deal. Obviously, offensively, when we took the ball and scored on the first drive, which always is a good start for somebody who wants to play up tempo, you just make them press, and no tempo team likes to play, when they're down. And so the second drive of the game was a 19-play, 8-minute, and I think we took 8 minutes, 15 seconds off the clock, converted a lot of third and fourth downs. We only kicked a field goal, but it was a 10-point swing because we had got our defense stopped them on the 1-yard line, goal line stand. And then we went 19 plays, took 8 minutes off, and kicked a field goal. So that was a 10-point swing, really, which was huge. And then scored 2 more touchdowns, and one of them we scored right before the half on a screen play to Price Davis. And he, Will Jones made a great throw to kind of get it over the defensive end's head. Price made a really nice catch, and then cut back off the sideline and scored in a nice play, and that was awesome. Huge score right before the half to get it to 24-0. And so a complete first half. Second half, they got the ball, went down and scored pretty quickly, and then that was all they had the rest of the night. We were able to answer with a score, and then defense just played really well the rest of the game to kind of shut them down.
I don't know how you about this, but I've always felt like when you're a team like a Maryville that's had so much success and you go into a road game like that, especially against a team that had beaten you the year before, I've always felt like, if you can put a score on the board quickly, as you just said, you kind of maybe put a little bit of doubt in their mind that, hey, maybe we can't beat these guys, or maybe, they're the same old Maryville or whatever team you want to pick. Do you agree with that? I mean, is it something where you have to kind of get them down and keep them down?
Yes. That's kind of been our philosophy for a long time. I can count probably on one hand the number of times we've won the toss and not taken the ball. Besides maybe 1 year, I can't remember which year it was, but I just felt like our defense was far and away the best, around. So we would defer some, but not even every time. But I think there definitely is something to playing with a lead, the confidence that not only our players have, but as a play caller. When you're calling the plays with the lead and things are going good, I just feel it's more comfortable versus having to play when you're down 7 or 14. It's it can definitely cause doubt, and it's not as easy because calling plays is all about trust, and and you want to put your kids in a position to where they can have success, and so got to have confidence and that kind of thing, and that's hard to do sometimes when you're playing really good football teams because especially the way we're playing right now, we can't afford to be 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10. We got to stay ahead of the sticks.
Right. And then also the defense, the flip side of that is when you're not playing with the lead, the defense feels like they can take a few more chances as well. So you're playing against maybe a situation that you're not really expecting or knowing what's coming next, right?
For sure. And at the end of the day, you just want your kids to play fast. I mean, you want them to play fast. And if we're playing with any kind of hesitancy, then it's the advantage of other team. So whatever we got to do to get them to play fast, whether we're up or down, that's the goal.
Another exciting feature that we'll be unveiling on our Main Street TV local sports break is the question of the week. Each week, we'll be choosing one question submitted by you, our viewers, to ask Coach Hunt. To submit your questions, subscribe to Main Street TV on YouTube and comment on this or any other of our local sports break videos, or follow us on Facebook or Instagram and comment on any of our local sports break posts. Then tune in each week, Thursdays at 7 p.m. on our Main Street TV YouTube channel to catch the new episode and maybe hear your question asked on the air. All right, let's talk about some of your players that stood out Friday night. Let's obviously start with your freshman quarterback. I mean, obviously you have to be deep down, maybe in an unexpressed way. You got to feel really good about what's coming up over the next few years. I mean, here he is, a freshman. Watching the film, I think, he's not, the moment is not too big for him. He seems to handle everything pretty well. Mm-hmm. I did note a few times where, maybe he threw to, and I don't know, maybe you guys tell him to look for a certain receiver or look for a certain read. But there were a few guys, maybe if he just stretched the ball a little bit, but he's 14 years old, and he's going to be so much better and so much stronger. So you got to be excited about what he's doing and what the future holds for Maryville, right?
I am. He's a really good football player. And, the reality is we had 2 juniors starting the year that we felt really good about too,
Right.
And then we just got dealt with some adversity, and Will got to the point where, okay, he's in the mix now.
Right.
So let's start practicing him some and playing him some. And then I just think that he was just good enough to have a chance to start. And then all he did with his opportunity was make the most out of it, played really well. And so, he just kind of took off and ran with it. No pun intended. But to be as young as he is, he has an ability to, I guess just belief in himself. He thinks that he knows, excuse me. He knows he believes he can get the job done,
mm-hmm.
And for a kid like that to be kind of put like against Bearden, in a big reaching game, we go on the road against Cleveland, he shows up, took some big licks against Cleveland, got right back up and kept playing. I mean, just super impressive stuff. And so, to be doing it in 6A, is no easy feat at all. I mean, we're playing in the best region in the state, most competitive region in the state, in the public school. And so I'm super impressed. We're really excited, and we've got kids behind him we still feel confident about too. So I feel like we're in a good spot.
So how much do you, I mean, without obviously giving away anything, but how much do you, as a freshman, have you been able to loosen the reins on him some? And what I mean by that is, have you opened up your offense completely for him, or are there still some things maybe that you're saying, I don't want to put him in that situation, or put him in a situation where he might have a little bit of a trouble executing? How do you go about that with a young quarterback?
Yeah, and so we always tailor our offenses around our quarterbacks and the skill kids that we have and what we're going to be good at. So when you're forming a game plan and even when you're calling a game, you got to do stuff that we feel like, the quarterback can execute. We've done that for years
Right.
now.
Right.
So that's not changed, for the last 25 years at Maryville. But certainly anytime, you don't really know what's going to happen when you trot somebody out there for the first time, or how they're going to handle certain experiences and certain pressures and, big moments, you just don't know. So,
right.
Yeah, I would say, last week we just kind of played ball. We kind of played football, and I think you get a certain amount of confidence with different kids and what they're capable of, and maybe what they can and can't do, and what they're good at. And Will's good at a lot of stuff, and so you kind of just call it and trust that he's going to make the right decision, because a lot of this stuff, you can coach them as much as you want, but once the ball snapped, there's one or two decisions that they've got to make.
Right.
If it's a progression pass, or we're reading somebody in a run game, stuff like that. So I would definitely say at this point, we're just playing football and trying to win, and there's not really anything that we're limited to.
What are some of the other players, or who are some of the other players that stood out Friday night that you were real pleased with?
Yeah, I mean, Price Davis had a huge night at running back for sure. I think defensively, our D-line was fantastic. We had 8 sacks. I think Jack Carter had 2 of them, 4 tackles for loss. Lucas Garman had 3 sacks. Our linebackers flew around. I thought they did a good job running to the football. And in the secondary, we had 2 interceptions. Both of our safeties, Nolan White and Andrew Jones, both had interceptions. So timely interceptions too, and they're kind of crossed the 50, and then we get 2 picks down there, which is huge. So breaks went our way. A lot of the breaks went our way because we made them. We're hustling to the football and running to the football, and defense played great. So it was a good night.
Yeah, and it was a big win for you guys, because obviously that puts you in a good spot for the playoff seeding, with only one region game left that's coming up at the end of the season. So obviously that puts you in a good spot. Let's move on and talk about the big game coming up this Friday. Obviously not a region game, but a rivalry game. A big rivalry game. Alcoa Maryville, they play it every year. Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it goes their way. Most of the time it's going Maryville's way. But let's talk about that game. It's at Alcoa. Alcoa, very good football team. I mean, we don't have to go into that. So talk to us a little bit about Alcoa, what they do well, and then some of the things that you guys are going to have to do well Friday night to beat them.
Yeah, they're undefeated. They've played some really good teams. They beat Ravenwood, Bearden, West. The teams that in their region are nowhere near to the standard that they are. So you don't really get a really good look when they're playing those teams. But they have played some good football teams this year, for sure, and have won in all those games. And so they're one of the best teams in the state. When you look at them on film, they've got a lot of new faces. Kids that have moved in to play and that are phenomenal football players. And Alcoa has always coached well. And so, they know us as good as anybody. They probably got more Maryville film than Maryville's got most Maryville film, And so, and they work on Maryville, I think, a lot more, than just the week prior. They have the ability to do that. And so it's going to be tough. They're so good. They're really good, talented. But that's been the case for a long time. Alcoa and Maryville have both been really good for a long time, and Our record would say that we're not having our best season, but I still feel like it can be a really good football game, and our kids will give us a chance because how hard they're going to play. So we're excited about it. It's a like you said, it's a non-region game, so as far as the playoff picture goes, it doesn't really matter as much. But at the same time, it's one that we certainly want to win, rivalry game, and it's going to be over there. So you're on the road, but what an opportunity for our kids to go up against one of the best in the state, and so we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can give your players a lot of insight, especially your young quarterback. I mean, you've been over there, you've played at Alcoa in a big game, so you know what the situation's like. Let's talk a little bit about we talked last week a little bit about your guys' identity this year and what you try to get done, and controlling the football, long drives. Is that something that you can continue to do against an Alcoa defense that I'm sure is very aggressive and is going to know that's what your game plan is? Or is Alcoa the type of team that you're going to have to come up with maybe 2 or 3 plays that they haven't seen yet, or chunk plays? I mean, how do you go about approaching this game?
Yeah, I think to win this type of game, you've got to have a couple explosives,
right,
a couple big plays that flip the field. And it doesn't even have to be on offense. It can be on special teams too, or
right,
defense, but trying to get a short field or get behind them for a touchdown or have a big run, whatever the case may be, because they're so hard.
Right.
I mean, how many times can you go 12, 13, 15, 16 play drives on them and convert and execute that long? No, I mean, that's really hard to do.
Right.
It's kind of like when you play Oakland. Defensively, if we can hold them, and offensively we can hold on to the football and make those drives, then can you win a 17-14 game? We've done that sometimes. But if you can't, if you feel like you've got to do that every possession, that's really hard. So I do think, like you said, we've got to find a way to have some explosive plays and not have to go, 15 plays to get points.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. When you get down there, you've got to score 7.
Right.
You got to score 7. You can't have 3. Or the opportunity to get 3 and miss it. Like, we've got to score 7, and that's a big issue in and of itself as well.
Yeah, no, conversion in the red zone is definitely a key statistic. I mean, field goals can't do it for you most of the time. Looking at Alcoa, I'm sure you've looked at a lot of film. What do they do really well, and maybe who are some of the players that you guys have to be aware of as you go in this game?
Well, this may take this podcast longer than you want it to, answering this question. Now,
give me the Cliff Note version.
I got you. There's really not much that they don't do well. I mean, so special teams, they kick it in the end zone, they punt it. Right. They're coached really well. There's no holes in their special team game. They're just solid. Offensively, they've got about 10 dudes that can take it to the house. I mean, seriously, that they've got one of the running backs, one of the best in the state. They've got the receiver that transferred from IMG Academy, is one of the best in the state. They already had 3 receivers that we felt like were as good a player, in this area that we've seen. They had a quarterback transfer from Middle Tennessee, who's like a 4-star, I think. Really strong arm. And the quarterback that would have started, I think, is one of the best players in the area. He starts at corner. Eli Graff's his name. And then he plays quarterback like once every 3 drives. Just a really heady player, physical, tough, good. I mean, so they've got him as their quote unquote backup quarterback behind a 4-star. Their tight ends, a Power 5 kid. He's got probably 15, 20 SEC Big Ten offers. Really good player. They're physical up front. So offensively, they're as good as we'll see, skill-wise, talent-wise. And defensively, they've got a ton of juniors and seniors that have played a lot of football. But they run to the football. They give you a different look about every snap. They'll be odd. They'll be even. They'll have the 3 safety look on third downs. They'll go nickel, personnel it. I mean, they do everything. And it's because they've got all these kids that can really play football. So they don't have holes. When you've got when you don't feel as comfortable maybe with certain personnel, well, then you might be more vanilla, or you may not substitute as much. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to put your best guys on the field, but they've got good depth. I mean, talking about for a 3A school, they've got way more depth than any team we've played so far this year, in 6A. So I think that speaks volumes for the job that they do. And I mean, they've got good football players. It is what it is.
How do you in this, when I played high school football, obviously there was no social media. I mean, there were no cell phones. We just went to practice, and when we had a rivalry game, you knew it was coming up and you played it. In this day and age with social media and all this, and I'm sure your kids are all on social media. I mean, none of them aren't these days. They see things. Oh, you guys aren't going to beat Alcoa. But how do you, as a coach, go into a game like this? I mean, and let's be honest here. I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything out of line. Looking at it on paper, they should beat Maryville. I mean, if you just look at it on paper, okay. So how do you get your kids to believe, hey, you guys, we can go in there and we can win this football game? I mean, is it something that you have to talk about all week long, or do you just go about practicing and preparing as well as you can?
No, I think you talk about it. That's my philosophy anyway, just because, I mean, yes, you prepare just as well as you can,
Sure.
like any other week. But I do think you have to talk about, I mean, look where we're at. Look at what we faced this year with the injuries and everything and what we lost from last year's team. And we're 16 points away from being undefeated. We're a possession in every game from being an undefeated football team. And I guarantee you, if we're 8-0 right now going in this game, it's a different feel. It's a different, people are talking differently, about how this is a coin flip game, yada, you know what I mean? Regardless of who we've played. And so, I think it's important for our players to hear their head football coach tell them, there's a chance you can win this football game if you do this, this, and this.
Right.
We know it won't be easy. Everybody knows that. And with Alcoa's, talent and skill, and we're playing over there and all the things. But yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity. And you hit it right on the head with the social media part. Like, every kid in Maryville and Alcoa and everywhere has social media. I don't think there's any doubt that sometimes that stuff plays a role. Sure. Sometimes our kids listen to what's said on social media or even the newspaper too much, and how good Alcoa is. And they are. That's the reality. Are. But we still got to play the game. And, we hope we get to have a chance to win. If we can keep it close and have a chance to win in the fourth quarter, that'd be awesome. The reality is, as big as game as this is this week, 7 days from now, it won't matter, because it's a non-region game,
Right.
And we want to win. I'm not belittling the game at all, but we've never played it week 10. We've never played it this late in the year. And so here we are, I feel like we're playing better football than we were earlier in the year, and kind of figuring out who we are with some of these new faces with injuries and all that. And maybe this is a great opportunity for us to see, all right, are we playoff worthy or not? How deep could we go if we're able to get in? And so, but the reality is, next week, what happened against Alcoa won't matter, because we've got to beat Fairgate, to play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, but the social media part's such an interesting play. I was in on it too earlier in my career, and I have since gotten off of it. And, I do have some people ask, as the head coach, you not feel like you should be involved, and, that kind of stuff. And, I'm sure we do have some coaches involved, but I just wanted to be happy. And I was happy when I wasn't reading it. And so my life was better without that stuff, garbage, whatever it is, in my brain. I only have so much brain space and time in the day, and I don't want to fill it with crap. And so I'm a lot happier without it. And we tell our kids all the time, I don't think you should have it, but if you do, here's what you need to watch out for.
Yeah, it's noise. I mean, that's what it is. And I really believe in belief. That sounds kind of like stupid.
Yeah.
Your kids, you look at my two favorite teams, Notre Dame and the New York Giants. I mean, look at these teams. Nobody expected Notre Dame to beat Southern Cal. Nobody expected the Giants to go in last night and play well against Buffalo. But belief, you have to believe you're a good football team. You guys line up just like they do. You guys block and tackle just like they do. And it doesn't matter what the noise is. I mean, you got there and play, and I like what the Notre Dame coach said, one play, one life. I mean, you play one play and then you move on to the next play. And if you do that, I think you got a really good chance, against any opponent. So
That's a great lesson right there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's my little soapbox rant for the day. But I think you guys have a great chance, and you just put the football out there and roll it out there and let's play, right?
Right. Let's play ball. Don't hold nothing back. You don't have anything to lose.
Sure.
So let's go play ball, see what happens, and enjoy the moment. I mean, what an opportunity. You think about it, like a lot of teams go through their entire careers and never get to play in one game that's this big and the atmosphere, and we get to do it, multiple times every year. But with that Maryville Alcoa, there's really nothing like it. So pretty special.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a good lesson too for your kids to know. I told my boys both. I mean, when I was in high school, I would have killed to play in a playoff game. We never got to play in a playoff game in my 4 years. And Maryville, you guys are playing in playoff games out the wazoo and have rings on your fingers, and I mean, not that any of that matters now, but the point is, you're doing something that a lot of people wish they had a chance to do. So yeah, go out there, give them the best motivational speech you can give them, and wish you the best of luck. And we'll definitely hook up again next week, hopefully to talk about a big win, and then talk about your last game of the season against Farragut. Derek, wish you the best of luck. Good luck this week, and we'll catch up with you next week.
All right, Ralph. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome back to the Main Street TV Local Sports Break. I hope you enjoyed this week's edition with Coach Derek Hunt. We talked a little bit about the Cleveland game last Friday night, a game that Maryville really needed to win. It was a region game, and had they lost that game, it was very possible that they would have had to beat Farragut to make the playoffs. Well, now they've beaten Cleveland. They seem pretty well secured in that third playoff spot. A big victory for Maryville, a fairly easy victory, 34-7, up 24-0 at halftime. And then we talked a little bit about some of the players in that game that did really well. Everybody looks at their freshman quarterback, and he is getting better every week. But it takes a village, as they say. The offensive line, the running backs, and of course the defense played very well with some turnovers and some aggressive play last Friday night. We also talked about the big game coming up against Alcoa. This is the first time the game's been played this late in the year, in week 10. Most of the time it's an early game, a week 2 or week 3 game. Very early in the season. So this week or this year, you've got an undefeated Alcoa team and a Maryville team that, although they are 5-3 right now, they're only a few points away from being undefeated, as Coach Derek Hunt said. So, and they've had a lot of adversity this year with injuries and the like. So it's going to be a good football game. It always is when Maryville plays Alcoa, and I hope you enjoy that football game if you plan to attend it Friday night. So, wrap up for this week. We'll visit with Coach Hunt again next week to recap the Alcoa game and look ahead to their final game, their region game with Farragut. All that and more on the Main Street TV Local Sports Break. For our producer, Nathan Miranda, Coach Derek Hunt, I'm Ralph Miranda, and we'll see you next week.